Hi everyone, welcome to Funnel TV, the Travel Tech channel. I'm really thrilled to announce today a new series called Cloud, No Frill. And I'm here to introduce a new guest, Brian Das from Miami. How are you, Brian?
Very good, Enzo. Thank you for having me. And greetings from sunny Florida and Miami Beach.
That's fantastic. I mean, you are having a great weather. I know that you are having a lot of sunshine over there. The weather is completely different from Europe now, but that's the word, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you getting me out of my polo shirts, and you got me to wear a tie today. So more power to you.
Right. So before we introduce our guest today, can you tell us a little bit more about this series today?
Yes, absolutely. So we're having a 3-part series. Today, we're going to be talking about legacy versus cloud, explaining some of the basics for hoteliers to get a better understanding about what's out there. We're also going to be talking about monolithic versus microservice architectures. I know it sounds pretty complex, but we're going to break it down and make it pretty easy. So that's today's topics. On Thursday, at the same time, we're going to be talking about open API adoption. We're going to be talking about cloud microservices and marketplaces. That's a hot one that's actually growing pretty quickly. And on Monday, we're going to talk about how the cloud can transform your organization. And we're also going to talk about migrating to the cloud. So this is our 3-part series starting today. And we're excited to get started with the panel and breaking it down and making it easy for hoteliers around the world.
Yeah, I hope after this series, we finally get more clarification on that. It's been a few years now that every time I'm in a discussion with some hoteliers, there's not much clarification on that. So I hope really with our guest today and in the next coming episode, we can provide all the information and give more clarification on that. Right. So let's welcome our guest today. So let me open the camera to Marco.
Hi, Enzo.
Alexander.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, guys.
David.
Hello.
Simone. Wow, man. So many people today here. Fantastic.
Yeah. So we've got here Marco Mari from Cinque Stelle, CTO and founder. We've got Alexander Estrom, CEO of onpremise. We have David Turnbull, managing or founding partner of Tech Talk Travel. And we've got Simone Porto. Everybody knows him from Funnel TV. So maybe we could start out with a quick round of just introducing yourself. Marco, would you like to go first?
Okay, thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
Hi, Brian and I all. I am Marco Mari. I am the CTO and founder of Cinque Stelle. Cinque Stelle is a native cloud PMS from Italy.
Fantastic. Thank you. Alexander?
Hi, guys. Yeah, happy to be on the show. I'm Alexander Edstrom, the CEO of onpremise, located currently in Sweden for this show. And we are RMS provider for a global RMS provider for hotels. So very excited to be on the show.
Fantastic. David?
Hi, my name's David Turnbull. I'm one of the founding partners of Tech Talk Travel, which is a recently launched media platform connecting next generation leaders, like students, hotel operators, and owners with the travel tech community.
Fantastic. All right, so we're ready to get started.
Well, my name is Enzo. I'm not alcoholic anymore.
Sorry, Enzo. I thought by now everybody knows who you are.
Well, you need no presentation, man.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I was just making some fun. Like I'm feeling like we are in non-alcoholic club, right? So I'm presenting myself as a non-alcoholic person.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right, guys. So I think we're ready to start, right?
Absolutely.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So easy.
Okay, and we're back. So our topic today for this first half is legacy versus cloud. So, again, hoteliers today, and we're going to have a lot of hoteliers that are probably watching, are using on-premise systems, and they're also using systems which we call the cloud to run their daily operations on property. But I could tell you from speaking to hoteliers myself, either recently or over the years, they're hearing a lot of noise about native, migrated, even hybrid when making and buying decisions. And I'm not sure, right? They're not sure what this all means. Where is it all going? So to open up the discussion and to get everyone's thoughts on the panel, including our viewers, can you, perhaps Marco, we'll start off with you, since you're our designated CTO on the episode. Start us off by explaining what are some of the basic differences between cloud and legacy systems, and if you can touch on a little bit on what the differences are between cloud native and migrated to the cloud.
Okay. Thank you for the question, Brian. Indeed, a very good question. There is still a lot of noise about cloud and not cloud, but also noise on cloud native and migrated. When we started our company, cloud was no more an option. I mean, looking at the future was the only and the obvious choice. In effect, I don't even know companies that started a project not in the cloud in last 5 or 6 years. Okay, it would mean to swim upstream like a salmon. It makes no sense today to go out of the cloud. But I don't want to go too deep on the tech side, so I prepared only some slides, very quick, because I don't want to steal time from the discussion.
Sure.
In order to summarize the advantages of cloud versus legacy, and then a little more discussion about cloud and migrated. So the first big advantage is that cloud is a young technology, and young in software development typically means easier. So if you look at the graphic, you got that with time arrives complexity. Cloud systems are let's say young systems, so easier to use, less friction in everyday operation. But, and we will see this part with open APIs, a lot of features can be gained by simply connecting other systems. So there is no need to have a monolith, a software monolith providing all the features you need. So this part, you can see the complexity. Why to be so complex? You can be easy, agile, and then add features connecting other systems. Okay, then with cloud arrives freedom from the hardware. So you can connect with any device and from any place. You are always on. You can have a dashboard of your properties everywhere. The system is always alive, even if you are not in the hotel. And then a very important part is that cloud system, being young, are born and built to sell. So they are natively connected from the beginning with booking engines, channel managers, OTAs. Okay, being connected, they are also connected to the world. So we are not speaking only with OTAs or channel manager, but also with many interesting apps. Cloud systems are always updated. So no more installation, no more server updates, local networks upgrades, no more of these hidden costs. Another great point is security. So some years ago, we never heard about PCI DDoS, so credit card security, or GDPR, but today is a must. And having this kind of security with a on-premise installation is very hard, and it brings very high costs. Again, quick and easy setup. So going live with a cloud system is a matter of days. No more weeks learning a new system, no more training directly in the hotel. So with the old system, you have one person physically going to the hotel and training people. No more of this loss of time. Scalability. When you are in the cloud, you are also scalable. So you manage an hotel, you have one login, you manage 10 hotels, you have one login, you can switch between your hotels. The costs are totally tailored to the need of every single customer. And okay, let's speak about the second part of your question, the difference between a native cloud system and a migrated one. I choose these two images summarizing what's the situation. So basically, again, I don't want to go too deeply in the tech part, but having a migrated system is like taking the server you have in your back office and move this server in a web farm. Okay, now you can reach remotely your server, and that's good, but you are not scalable. Maybe the security is not the same. And finally, the PMS we are using is the same old PMS, only brought in a web farm. So it's more like painting your home, but your home remains the same. Okay, so summarizing, a system migrated to the cloud still have almost all the problems we saw, only is reachable is remotely reachable. Okay, I finished my slide. It was only a summary. And
thank you for the visual.
Okay.
Thank you for the visual. That was very helpful. I appreciate that. And I'm sure our viewers really love that too, because they could see visually what it means, cloud, versus legacy, and of course at the same time migrated native cloud technology, because there are a lot of questions going on in hotels' minds today, which direction to go. So Alexander, perhaps you could weigh in a little bit in terms of what Marco said, because you're also a cloud technology, and I'm sure you have a lot of experience in dealing with these type of systems. So please, if you could weigh in.
Absolutely, yeah. So previously I was the CEO of a company coming from ad tech industry, so where everything is cloud. So when we started Atomize, it was very natural for us to start something in the cloud, so native cloud. I think that Marco made many good points there with his slides. But I think that what it all comes down to really is about being to lower the price overall, because with the cloud you have connectivity in terms of to connect is cheaper, right? Rather than doing the hybrid sort of cloud version. You can do, in terms of scale, you can, from a vendor perspective, you can push out what also Marco mentioned, releases, for instance. You can push out the release to the whole community using a certain cloud application at once. That means that the maintenance goes down, the cost for the maintenance goes down, and in the end, that means that a cloud provider that is providing a true cloud application, in the long run, they can offer lower price. So this is a better, more efficient alternative than the legacy systems. I have to say that those that are the legacy, those that are still are providing legacy systems, they will perish. Actually, they will be the tomorrow's dinosaurs, right? Because it's all about the cloud, really. It is.
Right. Absolutely. And Marco brought up a very interesting point, which I think it's a big one for everyone out there, especially in today's growing concern about cybersecurity. David, perhaps we could touch a little bit on security in terms of the cloud, what it means versus on-premise versus the cloud, and what are the capabilities that you see out there, or the things that you've seen where security is much better in the cloud than it is on-premise?
Well, bearing in mind, obviously, think of Marco's core customer. This is an independent hotel that's owned, that's operated, that's looking for, and to go to one of your other points, a quick and easy setup of a simple solution that gives me instant satisfaction that it's secure at all times. And we can't expect that independent owner to necessarily care very much about the liabilities surrounding having server-based technology on premise, but in the same way that I outsourced a lot of my security issues to companies like Stripe, etc., it's not unreasonable to expect the owner-operator of a smaller independent hotel to have that confidence of knowing that there's someone out there from a payment point of view, from a GDPR point of view, that is the domain expert in that area. I think that's the biggest advantage that cloud providers like Chinkastella can provide.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And then there's something else to be said that, to your point, David, about the target audience being independent hotels for Chinkastella as an example. Many of these independent hotels don't necessarily have an IT technician who's on hand. They may be working with somebody that's outsourced or someone that has to physically come into the property. Marco, probably touch on that a little bit in terms of like, because I think David mentioned, of course, Alexander mentioned about maintenance, cost, yes, being a factor, but the fact that we could access from the cloud and maintain on a 24/7, that's a huge benefit to hotels. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Back to myself, right? Or to Marco?
Oh, to Marco. I apologize.
Sorry.
To Marco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure. A basic of a cloud system is the connectivity. So many systems connected together, and that connectivity is easier because they are all living in the cloud. Just imagine a cloud system speaking together are like a person of the same age speaking together, okay? It's easy. While speaking with a legacy on-premise installation is like speaking with your father. It's a bit more complicated, okay? So it's, again, easy to connect, but above all, easy to maintain, because we now have more than 200 connection on production. So we speak with more than 200 other companies. And often there are changes in the interface, changes in the security, whatever change. And update the system to this change is easy because it's all about publish a new version in the cloud. Only imagine to have 2,000 properties like us and update one by one all the on-premise installation of these properties. It becomes impossible or extremely costly. So cloud is for solving also these kind of problems.
Gotcha. So in a way, you're sort of explaining, and again, to give hotels a good feeling in their heads that you're operating like an extension of the IT department for a hotel, where you don't physically have to be on property, but you're helping them remotely through the cloud to get all the connections done. Because as we know, many vendors call a hotel every single day, every week. They're being solicited by another connection, but you having it in the cloud makes it so much easier to connect those dots. David, would you like to touch on that a little bit about connections and the ease of connections and the scalability? Because you were also the founder of, or co-founder of Snapshot, that did a lot of connections out there, and using cloud that may have helped scale the business. If you want to touch on that a little bit, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. I mean, where do you start with this? Anyone operating in a cloud environment, of course, has achieved immediate sort of democracy in terms of how they share their data and who they share it with. And I think we need to be very careful about why would you pick a cloud solution, because an enterprise company picking a cloud solution is going to pick that for very different reasons to an individual hotel. And there's no question about the fact that if I want to simplify my life and not have a network administrator and be able to outsource all of that sort of IT complexity to my cloud hospitality partner, then platforms like Chinkastella, of course, are perfect, because it's more or less a one-stop shop. I have all of that core proprietary great technology there, and I should have a good selection of extra features built by that partner or with integrations on top of that. So it's a one-stop shop. I'd fall short of calling it a marketplace. I think that's just PMS doing its job well in terms of making connectivity an easy one. But where I think it gets exciting, of course, is that with this whole sort of, and this will be covered in the next episode, this whole notion of open APIs, is that data democracy is way beyond just integration capability and the ability to share data with known third parties that can build products and experiences which are unique to your hotel or your group of hotels. And I think that's where the power of the platform, the power of the cloud comes into its own.
Gotcha. Alexander, do you have something to share on this?
No, I just agree with what David says here. I mean, in terms of for instance, if we have a roadmap, for instance, for Atomize, and if we add to that roadmap certain requirements for certain hotels, we can so easily add those to the roadmap, and we can push them out either on exclusive basis to these hotels, or we can do it across all hotels at once, and it's a matter of seconds, right? So it's really efficient. What I think though is what is usually from what I hear is sort of one of those. They want to challenge the cloud, saying like, "What happens if the internet goes down?" Sort of,
right.
And that, as far as I know, has never happened. That the whole internet has gone down. But the fact is, actually, if your internet connection goes down to the cloud for your hotel, the beautiful thing here is that the cloud application. Let's say that you run a PMS like Cinco Stelle, where they will be able to still, receive reservations, right? Even if you lost the connection to the local connection, internet connection. In contrast to a legacy PMS, for instance, where if there is a disruption or is somehow in the basement of your hotel, there's a flooding or whatever, you are not only can you not reach the PMS itself, but no reservations can even come in, right? You are really squashed as a hotel. So there are security things here that are redundancy issues or opportunities that you can gain as well with the cloud that you cannot get with a legacy solution.
Yes, Marco. Sorry, you wanted to.
Alexander, to say the truth, a good number of new properties arrived in Cinque Stelle last month from Venice after their server really got flooded by the high water.
Wow!
So you did the perfect example.
Yeah.
Their installed server went underwater, and they decided to migrate to the cloud once and for all.
Wow!
We also had some clients in Venice, and they said, "Well, we need to cancel the subscription with Atomize because we can't use it." Well, you actually can, because for next summer, when you're going to open up the hotel again, don't you want to have the right prices at hand, right?
Right.
And we want. So even if their whole hotel was, 2 meters with water in their the hotel, they still sold rooms for next summer and optimized prices. That's one benefit, and you get with the cloud. It keeps on going, right?
Right. Exactly. I recently spoke to a hotelier. This is pretty interesting. The hotelier seemed to be really focused on having premise based. And I think it's because the server is literally in the next room or in the closet. This feeling of like ownership, that there's some physical hardware that's there. And then after a certain part of the discussion, then the discussion came up and said, well, is there a way that whatever on the server could just be mirrored in the cloud and be put up there in case of there being an issue? So perhaps, Marco, if you could weigh in, in this sort of, I don't know if you want to call that a hybrid model, or, perhaps if the server fails down here, does the server work in the cloud? What are your thoughts on that?
It's painting an old home.
Okay.
You are only painting, but you are still using the old system. I mean, there are cloud is the base, okay, and we all agree on this. But it's not only to have a system that you can reach from remote, or it's not only having the data not in your house or in your house and remotely. Is more a state of mind. There are at least 3 factors that compose the cloud. Let's say 3 pillars. Okay, the technology, and we spoke till now about the technology. Okay, it's good. The SaaS model. So we are providing the software as a service. So a different type of pricing, different costs, and so on. But a third aspect is the customer. And I don't mean the guest. As customer, I mean the hotelier. So it must be also the hotelier that a little bit change his mind. So no more fear of not having your data in the room, in the back office or in the front office, okay? But make a step further and think about having your data available for other applications and also more secure, because having them physically there is a forced security. We just made the example of the flood, but also informatic crimes are much more much more difficult to have in the cloud. So cloud systems are typically much more secure in all sense.
Yes, it's interesting. You touched on something there about the customer, and it just ran through my mind that, from a training and support standpoint, just to touch on that a little bit, does it make it a whole lot easier to support, train, and retrain the hotelier in the cloud versus trying to get access to the screen on the on-premise system to be able to train employees, see what they're seeing exactly? Perhaps if you could, Alexander, touch a little bit about that, because again, you run everything on the cloud. You train the staff at hotels off of your platform. I'd be curious your opinion on the training, premise versus cloud.
Yeah, so one case we had this morning was a hotel chain in Japan, for instance, who was running 4 properties, and the training. Doing that kind of training in a different time zone, and you don't need to go to Japan. Obviously, you just light it up and you do this. You have full access. You can just share the same environment with the client. And it's just like, and if they say like we would like a certain module to use a certain module, well, let's light it up. And while we are in the call, in the webinar, sharing the same interface, we're lighting up that module, and he's all of a sudden that is available to him, to this this hotel chain. That kind of live kind of environment is really beneficial for all parties involved in a cloud environment. So that's one example how scalable it is, but that scale also actually is very beneficial for the hotels themselves, because it's easy. It makes it a lot easier than anything else, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. David, would you like to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I always like to play the counter perspective. It depends who's buying the technology, right? This is one thing you have to think about. And perhaps when you're owned operated, it doesn't really matter, but there is a technical difference between, a lot of that legacy tech, which was a capital expenditure, versus software as a service, which falls in as an operational expenditure. And I'm known to talk about this point a lot, but I think that this is the tipping point, because once hotel operators recognize that, yes, they are accepting a new operational expenditure, but this opens them up. A cloud platform, a cloud PMS allows you to become your own R&D team. It's your own test laboratory,
Right.
and companies like Atomize now. You don't have to invest years in trying to kind of lock that hotel to try your software. They can ABC test 2 or 3 different revenue management applications within a 30, 60, 90-day period and pick what's the right thing for them. And I think that's one of the beauties about this microservice architecture, is that if you pick the right core partner, the right cloud PMS partner, they're delivering the right data to the right third-party applications. So you get win-win the whole way. But we just need to, as an industry, re-educate ourselves in terms of investment into technology, in my opinion. And of course, that separation between owner and operator, CapEx, OpEx. And I've been talking about this, I think, for 7, 8 years now.
Sure.
Is going to be the defining moment in when hotels recognize the fact that they're not just service operators, but they're technology operators as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well said. So you touched on microservice architecture, which is coming up in our second half. So I think we're about to head into a break and then come back and talk about monolithic versus microservice architecture. So Simone, are you there?
Yep, very
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah. Any comments? Any input?
Well, I really, I agree on everything, and I think it's it's not even a question of agreeing on stuff here. We all know that there's no other option rather than do it, than being completely cloud native. But I really liked the thing that Marco said about the fact that cloud tech and on-premise tech, if they would talk to each other, they would talk to each other like different generations, right?
Right.
And I think this is an understatement. I think that if you got a cloud native system talking to our old legacy system, not only we will see different generations talking, we probably see something like different languages talking, and so. I mean, I think that at this point in time, the question is not, and we know very well from the hotel tech perspective, but for hoteliers, the problem is not even if moving to the cloud, but it's only a question of when to move to the cloud. So it's to me, it's really a one-way street, and we can speculate and we can talk about it. It's fun to see it from different angles, but at the end of the day, that is the only evolutionary step, and I see, and sometimes I see it with a lot of surprise that there are tech companies around that are promoting the fact that they move to the cloud as some kind of revolution. But guys, this is no revolution at all. Just remove the R, because this is just the normal evolution of technology. It's as Marco correctly stated, there's no single company, not only in travel tech, but in technology in general, that will have this crazy idea to start a company on a legacy system. So it's more for us to discuss about it, but the future is pretty clear when it comes to that.
Yes, I have to agree with you, Simone. So now we will go off for a break, and we'll be right back to talk about monolithic versus microservices architecture and continue our discussion. See you soon.
If you want to free your time and boost your productivity, ask for your free demo now. It's time to work well and live better.
And welcome back to our second half. Glad that you're still with us and enjoying today's discussion. Continuing our really great, topic of cloud. We would like to talk now about monolithic versus microservices architectures. That sounds like a really interesting topic. We're going to try to break it out into some layman's terms. So it's my understanding that for many decades, we've been using client-server architecture. Let me get that correct. And it worked well for the industry, but it does have its drawbacks and inefficiencies as well, and have been known to be hard to scale. Marco, since again you're our designated CTO on the episode, I'll start off with you. Can you explain a little bit about what is client server and what is the hospitality industry today transforming to in terms of technology to move away from this type of architecture?
Yeah, sure. As I said, cloud is about being also serverless. So there is no physical server. There are distributed, connected systems. And I'm speaking about connecting, not integrating, because it can seem similar, but it's different to say connected. So connected are two pair systems that simply have a dialogue, while integration is more about put a system in the other, and it's not the model followed by cloud. So we got serverless architectures, typically called microservices, so different systems speaking together. And the opposite is the old on-premise with a server. But what's the problem with server? The first is, as Simone said, the language. So speaking with a server not in the cloud can be difficult, can be tricky. You have to speak with maybe a different language. You have to take into account that that server can go offline. So many problems. And more than all, a server have many hidden costs. I prepared a slide about hidden costs. Is what we call the iceberg effect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know if you can see the slide.
Not yet. There we go.
Okay, here we are. So when you think about on-premise, you got the license. Okay, and you can think, okay, I paid my license and that's all. Nothing more wrong, because you have several customization, implementation, but the real problem arrives with hardware. So a lot of hardware costs. IT people. So people physically going to the hotel, to the property, updating the system, configuring them, applying security patches. So a lot of costly job, maintenance, and training. While on the cloud side, you have a subscription, the software as a service. You have a much lesser implementation training, and that's all. And then the system can much easily communicate with this microservice architecture. Okay.
No more slides. You have another one? Or, okay, I was waiting for one more slide. Okay.
It's the first one, this one.
Okay, gotcha. So Alexander, would you like to weigh in on what Marco was saying about cloud computing and the architecture?
Yeah, so we see this because we even if we are operating in the cloud with Atomize entirely, we sometimes need to do some integrations with the legacy PMSs, and the experience from that is very much what has been discussed here, and that is the language barrier, so to speak, in terms of how things have been the infrastructure looks like, where we need to interpret that situation very unique in a unique way for each of those integrations. And it's just every time you open the lid, it looks different, right? And it's very, and that is makes it complex. It makes it takes time, and time means costs, right? Costs are going through the roof, so once again, it comes down to that it's just slowing things down, really. So a really practical example, if we would, and I hope we will come to that point soon, Marco, where we would do an integration with you guys, then that probably will take, a matter of weeks compared to a legacy PMS, where it would take anywhere between 6 to 9 months, maybe even a year many times. So it's to get a perspective of things, how extremely different those type of scenarios look like when it comes to just for systems to talk to each other. So even if I don't even know anything about 5 Stelle in terms of the architecture, I'm certain that we would make an integration to come alive in less than a month or maximum 2 in total, including tests and everything. But that is not the case with the legacy infrastructure, I can tell you.
Alex,
Yeah,
I'm sure
David,
you've just given an argument for marketplaces there. But why would you?
You're free to go. Open goal.
I can't claim that we, and that's the next subject as well. So I could stay away from that.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of observations. When is the cloud actually the cloud? I think some of the advantages that Marco has correctly put out in an ideal scenario, all cloud providers would offer such a simplified software as a service solution. Unfortunately, however, we have many cloud solutions that still technically behave like the cloud, but from a commercial point of view, look a lot like legacy platforms today. And I think that slows down a lot of the adoption. And if I can be honest and speak to the vendors that are watching, this stops the opportunity for innovation and creativity by the hoteliers if we're still held up by the impact of integration fees, etc. There are many great examples out there of cloud PMSs, including 5 Stelle, that behave correctly. But I don't know what the opinion of the group is, but I think that's probably today one of the biggest barriers to cloud tech adoption.
Right. Marco, do you want to weigh in on that?
I couldn't agree more. For me, it's unbelievable to see cloud companies, also native cloud, I mean real cloud PMSs, behave like a software monolith again. So being, again, with the old concept of I am providing all the feature of my system. I don't want to open my system. I am an all-in-one provider. Why? I mean, you already are in the cloud. I can understand if an on-premise developer is closing his systems, because it's really difficult to open it, to have connection. We spoke about the costs and so on. But when you already are on the cloud, why keep your system closed? Why not open your system, open the connection? I call it the all-in-one temptation. I can imagine software developers thinking, wow, we already developed the PMS, we can develop on RMS, we can develop reputation management, we can develop whatever. And maybe it's true, you can develop it, but why? Why not focus on your system and let your properties choose the right solution? Because it's unreal to be able to provide the best solution for all your customers.
Yeah, very good points. Very good points. Focusing on your core business, focusing on your core know-how. Something that Alexander touched on in the previous half is about cost. Marco, would you say that because of the microservices architecture being and working in the cloud, premise versus cloud, is this one of the reasons that cost in itself, in terms of what hoteliers are paying for applications today, premise again versus cloud, what would you say that's one of the reasons why the price is being driven down, is because of the architecture, because it's in the cloud? Could you just expand on that a little bit?
Sorry, it was for Alexander.
No, for you, Marco.
Okay, because I'm seeing Alexander on the screen. Okay, no, for sure, a microservice-based architecture is easier to maintain for us. So we can open the API, we can provide free or cheap connections, and is always, as Alexander stated, much easier to develop for external applications. On the total contrary, an on-premise installation is hard to maintain. Only think about having a new app connecting to an on-premise system, and the provider of this system having to update all the customers that asks for this connection. Only the simple cost of updating one by one these systems make the connection expensive. Mm-hmm. And think with the future, with the updates, with the further updates. So imagine how many updates we'll have, for instance, Atomize. They continue to improve their system. So there will be new features. And with these new features, maybe new calls to the API or the PMS. So if you have to maintain all this connection layer outside the cloud, it becomes really too costly. So I understand the fact that these connections are expensive. But okay, I understand them, but it's not a good point to remain outside the cloud.
Right. Alexander, expand on that a little bit, because again, Atomize being in the cloud, economies of scale, you guys are growing rapidly. What are your thoughts on what Marco just said?
Yeah, I think another example, for instance, which we can talk about as well, is that with Atomize, for instance, we have the front end in Atomize that is sort of what the clients see, right? The connection between that user interface and our backend, where we have the algorithms and stuff like that, we have internal APIs connected between front and the backend. And what that means also, which is a great advantage, is that if we have a bigger hotel chain approaching us, for instance, saying like, well, we like your interface, but we would like to build our own. Is that possible? Of course it is. Just we provide them with the APIs and they can build their own interface with the strength of Atomize algorithms. And they can create either added interfaces or a completely new interface for their hotel chain. I think, and that kind of possibility is also something that they can actually take full control if they want to for the user interface itself to design it according to their needs. However, the backbone in terms of the competitive advantage for a certain vendor can then be used for any hotels, but they can craft the design and layout, and if they want a certain feature, they can do that based on the data in the backend. And this can be done without even having engineers needing to talk to each other, right? Because these things are well documented, and they can just do this on the other side of the planet, which also is a cost factor. And it's really you can tailor make a lot of things with this kind of infrastructure as well, and it opens up that kind of, which I would like to say, like a hybrid thing as well in terms of design, because you have one product for the mass market, but if there is a significant big hotel chain, well, they can use the power of these vendors for those that have this setup as well. But it's a matter of obviously how the vendor has built their infrastructure on their end, but still everything is in the cloud, which is enabling this as well.
Alex, if I can jump with that, I love this.
Yeah.
I've spoken about this for years. Yeah. You're retailing your algorithm. You're selling the secret sauce behind it, but you're not forcing people into a specific UX box. If you know what I mean? Adoption rates of RMS are still under 10% worldwide, and quite honestly, the UX is irrelevant, right? This could be part of a wider dashboard that the group or even the individual hotel. I don't think you have to limit this, and that's the beauty of that sort of relationship between a vendor like yourselves and the cloud PMS, is that you've got many different flavors depending on people's appetite. Yesterday's system administrator is tomorrow's in-house data scientist, right?
Right.
Because you've
Very true.
outsourced all of that sort of security needs, and you can get way more kind of into the fun of testing your tech stack. And it's not just Chinkastella. I think guys like Muse and Cloudbeds, all these guys have been very kind of proactive and sort of selling that opportunity. So I think we're all agreed. We're all here vendors today. We need to get some hoteliers in the room and start to educate them about the opportunities, because that will change completely the team that you recruit, right? Marco, I'm sure that today you're fed up talking to revenue managers and director of sales, and you'd like to see more sort of technology-enabled hoteliers challenging you on the expectations that they have in terms of how they develop the partnership with you.
Yeah. So Marco and David's making a good point. If I could use the word, it's sort of a collaborative community of different vendors that are all working for the common good of the hotelier. How's things from Chinkastella's perspective in terms of collaboration, and how's that scaling in the conversations that you're having with the various systems out there today that want to integrate with you?
We are very open from the beginning to collaborations. In fact, we opened our API more than 3 years ago. So it's not a news of yesterday, but we are open really from the beginning. Moreover, we internally, again, I don't want to go deep in the tech side, but internally the system is based on an event engine. So every interaction you do on the PMS creates an event, and this event can be pushed to any external system. Imagine to save a bill and tell the PMS every bill you save, forward the bill to my accounting software that will have his API, forward the bill to another app that is using our own open API, and maybe forward the bill with an email to the customer. So it's only an example, but it's a good example to show how an event-based architecture can make the information flow with all connected systems. So coming back to your question, for us, the focus on external connections is very important. When I showed the slide with the complexity of the system, okay, I prefer to keep my system easy to use and to add features by connecting external systems. And I prefer this situation than take my system and having my system become more and more complex, more and more difficult to use, difficult to support, and is not what we want to do.
Right.
So keep the system agile.
Yes, absolutely. So with that said, when can we see your marketplace?
Soon.
Okay. Keep us to the edge of our seat.
But again, Brian, it's not about only our marketplace.
Sure.
We are on other marketplace, and we are absolutely open to every source of connection. So we won't say, okay, if you are on our marketplace, it's good. If you are outside, it's bad.
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
Our concept is if you want to connect, is always good.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, I know somebody who wants to be on your marketplace. It's Alexander.
It's me.
He wants to be on your marketplace. He wants Atomize on your marketplace. All right. So,
sure.
so we're getting to the top of the hour. Simone, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, this is a fascinating topic to me, microservice versus monolithic, and I think it's one of the most misunderstood in the industry, sometimes by will of the vendors, I would add. We don't have to be completely PC here, so I think I can say that. But let me give you a simple example, okay? Because we all tech tech nerds here. So, but let's try to translate it to English. So let me give you an example. The other day I was at a vintage store and I bought this. Okay, great movie. You all seen this one. You all watched this one.
One of my favorites.
Now the thing is that this is actually a laser disc, and a lot of people won't even remember that. But what you had to do back in the day was you had this huge disc, and then you had to flip it in the middle of the movie. I don't know if you remember that. That is actually two laser discs. Okay. Yeah. Now this to me is the perfect example. Now let's say that you want to watch Pulp Fiction tonight. So I think what you do is basically you go on Netflix, you connect and you watch the movie, right? Now that's microservice. Now let's say that you want to watch Pulp Fiction and you use a different strategy. And what you do is you connect remotely to the surveillance camera in your apartment, and the surveillance camera is pointed at the TV set with a laser disc on it. That is monolithic. So what Netflix did, and Netflix to me is the perfect example because probably they have the most successful story when it comes to microservice. And they had this huge spaghetti code kind of DVD rental application, right? Yeah. And they were able to move to a system fueled by something like 500 microservices that process something like 2 billion API requests every day.
Wow!
And this has been done with, and this is exactly what Marco was saying. This has been done with 30 different dev teams that had nothing to do with each other. All these people were working on a single part of the microservice. Were working on single API, and so they created this very lean, agile kind of approach when it comes to architecture, and it's been so successful that they even open sourced most of it. You can use the Netflix OSS approach if you want to build new technology. So this is, whenever somebody asks me, somebody that is not from the tech world and wants to understand a little better what microservice and monolithic means, I always do this Netflix example. So monolithic is you got your camera in your apartment, you point it at your television, you put a VHS on a laser disc, and that's how you watch a movie. Or, versus just going straight to Netflix and watching a movie. So I think that is a pretty example.
Are you going to keep that laser disc in your briefcase and walk onto the trade show?
Well,
that's a good example.
Look, you know what? I'm a movie freak, and I remember I'm a movie freak, and I'm getting old. But I remember that in the mid '90s, if you wanted to watch a couple, 3 movies a day, like I was doing at the time, you had to go around with a lot of VHS and Laserdisc and DVD, and that is exactly a problem. And look, we will never. That's the thing, if you're a hotelier, you will never accept that. If you sign up with Netflix and you're paying this $9.99 a month, you don't want to go around whenever you're going to ITB or whatever trade show with a bunch of VHS and DVDs on your briefcase. Sure. You want to be able to do it remotely. So why do you passively accept the fact that a system, a PMS should work with a monolithic approach, with a server that is on the basement, and you accept it like it is? There's no other option. There is another option. Actually, there is only one option. So that's, next time you sign a bill for, moving to a new server or install a new virtual machine, remember about the Laserdisc thing. And I think that is really will change your mind.
Can I add, just based on what Tomo said, just one point? I don't think for the independent hotelier that monolithic versus microservice is really what's dominating how they think about life. Shifting to the cloud represents a fundamental change in how you do business. You've got to clean up your mess. If you're a 10-year-old hotel, if you cut open that PMS, it's like cutting open a tree. You've just got layers and layers, data layers of how you've been running your business over the last 10 years. And I do think that's, we talk about how easy it is to use cloud software. The opportunity is the kind of the solutions engineering that goes with the implementation of a cloud PMS to say, okay, we get it. you've been in a legacy environment for the last 10 years. How can we streamline your business? How can we reset up your rate plans, your segments, your ways of doing business so that you can become instantly convertible into the cloud? In my opinion, that's one of the big barriers, much more so than any kind of understanding of the technology itself. They don't care. They want it to be easy to use, easy to implement, cheap to operate. And I think that we come back to that kind of focus on sort of solutions engineering and making life easier for the hotels to onboard onto that new tech, we'll see much greater adoption as well.
I totally agree. And, just to quote, this is probably was a conversation I was having with Marco the other day. And to quote another movie, if you remember the Grand Hotel Budapest movie, at some point they say, the best service is invisible. The best bellboy is totally invisible. And that's exactly the point, David. At the end of the day, the hotel doesn't even need to know what kind of technology is behind the service. If you got a PMS that is connectable to everything and is running on a Commodore 64, more power to you. You don't even care. You should be more concerned about the quality of the pillows than the fact that your system is monolithic or microservice based. But again, it's something that you need to understand. At least you need to understand the basic concept. So whenever you receive a proposal from your new provider, you know that if you're taking the right decision or the wrong decision.
Right. So, hey, Enzo, you there?
Yeah, it's here.
Yes, yeah.
Here.
So has there been any questions on the feed? Anyone have any questions out there that we could ask to our guests?
Not really. I've seen a lot of visualization. I think people were really focusing to listening. I didn't intercept any particular question. So I think all goes well, right?
It means we're doing our job good.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking, when Simone was doing the laser disc sample, I was feeling a little bit uncomfortable just because, in the meantime, you are talking about cloud, guys. I was listening my vinyl here on the table. I'm here.
Yeah, but that's a different story, my friend. That is a very different story.
You got it. Yeah, it's true. Right. So I think we are at the end, guys, right?
Yeah, we're at the end. Perhaps, Marco, if you'd like to have the last word before we wrap up, you want to say a few things to sum up?
Thank you.
Yes.
Nothing in particular. I think interesting discussion. I mean, we had the possibility to point all the great advantages of cloud, and to see, also to speak about microservices, because when you speak about cloud, maybe starting and say, okay, you can access from remote, you are connected with the OTAs, with channel manager, are important concepts, but are concepts more known to almost to everybody. But the interesting part of this panel has been to go deeper and show to the audience also some new aspect, some new problem, and the solution that the cloud can provide.
Great, thank you. So,
Ryan.
Enzo, yes.
Yeah, well, we had the first episode today, right? So
yes.
Just to summarize, as Marcus said, so we got few bullet points, really interesting. So I would say fast opportunity, saving money, saving time. Actually, I was really strongly engaged during the last 10 years with some company I was working before to try to expand markets and get the integration with local PMS. And that was crazy, really, guys. So I can really feel what you were sharing today during the discussion. Would you like to just give a little bit of an advice, Brian, on what's going on in the next episode, Thursday and Monday?
Yes, exactly. So just following up on that, on Thursday, we're going to talk about open API adoption And then we're also going
Right.
to talk about cloud microservice again, touch or expand on that, and marketplaces, a favorite of David's. He has a lot to say about marketplaces. We're going to have to get you on a show to talk about marketplaces.
I'll be on the live comments, don't worry.
Yeah, great. We'll look forward to your questions. Then on Monday, we're going to follow up with how cloud can transform your organization and migrating to the cloud to wrap up our 3-episode trilogy, which we're excited to talk about. And of course, we will have Marco Mari in all of the episodes, and we will have some new guests on Thursday and on Monday.
Fantastic. Right. Okay, guys. So at this point, I will say thanks everyone once again for watching Funnel TV and this new series, Cloud No Frills. Wish you enjoyed
Thank you,
it.
guys.
And I will
Thank
hope
you.
to see you again Thursday. And what should I say? You know what? The show must go on. Funnel
Yes,
TV.
that's right. That's right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Guys, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
This is Jack, a happy hotelier. He's enjoying some free time near his hotel. He's not on holiday, but he can still find time for his passion. Pretty cool, isn't it? I bet you're wondering, how the hell can he afford it? Simple. He manages his hotel with 5 Stelle, the native cloud PMS which frees your time and increases your potential.